Hey Patrick.
Hey Matt, how's it going?
All right. All right. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Been going about doing some house cleaning or housekeeping or spring cleaning, whatever you want to call it, for the
Yeah.
office.
Okay.
Trying to make it an actual more of an office instead of I've been calling it a pop-up meth lab. Vibe it gives off.
Sure.
So, yeah, how about you?
Oh, I'm just trying to pay attention to the meeting that I'm in and join this one. I have an overlap today, but it's all right.
Okay, okay. Well, my goal is that we can keep this one on the shorter side because I don't know if you've seen, but I'm trying to host a little show and tell this
Yeah.
evening. So I don't know if you can attend or not, but that would be awesome. I want to use it as a time for us to really in earnest kick off more community engagement projects like that. And
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. I'm planning on attending, and I'm gonna work on getting something to show. But what
awesome.
what are you gonna have people like show their rigs or actually show a build being cut or something like that or what?
I want anybody who's willing to show anything they're willing to show, essentially,
Okay. Yeah.
about MakerMade.
All right.
Yeah, so I'm hopeful that we'll have new people coming in and saying, "Hey, this is my setup. Does that look right?" And then we'll have salty vets saying, "Here's some projects I've made, and here's how my setup looks right now." I just want it to be a time for us all to kind of meet and greet again in a broader
Sure.
sense.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm really excited about it. I saw the posting and I'm planning on being there. Did I also read something about you wanted to see mistakes?
I love seeing mistakes, absolutely, because we can all learn from it.
I'm embarrassed. I have one that I made a mistake on and I'm super embarrassed about it, but yeah, I'll bring that out too, but
I'll bring a mistake that I just made.
okay. All right. All right. Sounds good.
I'll kick
Yeah.
it off. But yeah, we're gonna give out router bits for anybody who shows their setup. So I'm hoping that I have to give away more router bits than I want to.
It's a good problem to have then, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
Well,
heard you. I heard you talking about the router bits last time. It sounds interesting. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna show, but it's not just to get free swag. I don't need free swag, but I'm excited to see other people's setups, and I have a rather unique mount on mine. I'd like to show you guys, and
yeah.
I'm planning on making some other changes to it too. It's just the problem of if I make the change to the mount, then I have to take the machine down for a certain amount of time, and that's
Hmm.
not cool because I like to build, like to make stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to see that.
sure.
But yeah, we've kicked off the router bit revamp in earnest. So
Great.
yeah, we're working pretty hard on that right now. We're also knee deep in spindle design and
Okay.
development work. Um, yeah, ton of stuff going on. Trying to get a bunch of things ready for the holidays.
That's great.
So,
That's great.
yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
if you've seen Rui on the owners group too, we're working with him trying to get his camera system set up as a unit that we sell on our shopping page.
Oh,
Yeah, so I want to use that as an example project where community innovation can lead to
Kayla.
a lot of financial or profit sharing. Ooh, we got new baby here.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize I wasn't muted. Trying to join at the same time I'm on here.
It's all good. I can't relate, but I can certainly hope to understand. Tom, Tom, is that Tom from Ohio or just Tom OH? Tom, you there? You're on mute. Okay. What's up, Dustin?
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Good. Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent.
Thanks for agreeing to do a little show and tell later today.
Yeah, no problem.
Matt here says he's going to be in. I know Mike's going to be in. We're going to have a few other folks definitely in. So hoping to have a good group show up today. We'll see how it goes, but should be some fun regardless. I've got a another table I just finished etching here. Actually, I'll show you all what I've been working on. Another conference table. It's just a mirror or a remake of the one that we've already done, but just did the etching or the engraving run on it first. So did a V-bit pass on it first. Yeah, so it turns into, you can see the team over here. Say hi, guys. Turns into this table over here. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah, Emily and Matt. So the issue, Matt, that I had on this one is sometimes I get lazy before I do a run, and I'll just like start the edge test calibration and then like drive it up to a corner. And if it like hits it like dead on, I'm like, yeah, that's good. And I should have tested the top because I've got just the slightest like 1/4 inch bow to this top line. The bottom line is flat as it's supposed to be, but the top line, I was just being lazy and I didn't perfectly calibrate it. So I've got like a slight bow there. You won't be able to tell when you actually sit the table down or anything, but you know.
So Patrick, question for you. Do you calibrate it before you run every time? Do you do a calibration run?
No, I don't. But this time there was enough wonkiness between makes that I should have been a little bit more fastidious about it.
Sure. Okay.
But yeah, I was trying to do it before anybody else got in the office today. Because you know, we don't have any carpet in the office, so that thing just echoes like mad.
Sure.
Yeah, but I just swapped out bits. I got a down cut bit now to cut the whole thing out, and then I just pick up some using a chop saw. I just take some 1x4s and then butt them against each other to make an angle, and then do like a little skirt underneath. It's like all in. Usually I'll make the legs and the skirt while the machine's cutting out the tabletop, and if I do it that way, it's like an 1.5 hour max 2 hour build.
That looks really cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'll give you the file. I can drop the file in the marketplace too.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, there's Tom. Hey, Tom, how's it going?
If I could find the unmute button, I'd be good to go.
There you are.
Yeah.
Hey.
No, I'm here. Yeah, I'm my M2 is coming today. Whoop. I'm super stoked. So
hey, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's awesome. You know, this group, you guys, I've been asking a bunch of questions, and they get back to me pretty quickly. Just, you know, other M2 users.
Yeah.
Because I see that on the frame, how you suggest to do it in the resources page, you've got spaces. Instead of having a 8x4 together, you've got 2x4s all, you know, and I want to know if anybody's ever had any issues with that little space between all those boards, or it was put there for a reason so that the maker can do the full 8x4. Yeah. So I can definitely speak to that. That the frame, that particular frame is my design. And it was after months and months of testing different designs. So what I was trying to do is balance a blend of quick setup with readily available materials that require as little, you know, as few additional tools as possible, right? So this version only requires readily available lengths of wood that you can pick up at Home Depot or any store, right? And then a power drill. So the old versions required you to have some sort of chop saw or something like that, right? Also, I wanted the material to be things that were as cheap as possible, especially where wood prices were earlier on this year. So a full sheet of ply versus 4 individual sheets of particle board, where it was like an extra $30 expense at that point. It's changed a little bit now, but also the reason was I wanted it to be where you could get the material home without needing a pickup truck. So yeah, that was one of the things that somebody on the forum said, or somebody on the group said,
that it was, you know, for people who don't have a pickup truck, which I don't have a pickup truck. I got a minivan, but I've got a trailer I can put on the back of it. So I got
Perfect.
a full 8x4, but if you created that design on purpose, and it works, you know, that's how I'm going to build it.
Well, yeah, and so so the additional reasons are, so using the old version where you've just got the 8x4 sheet as your backer, it's really difficult to skirt that thing. So if you're familiar with that term, right, that's essentially for this sled, that's support when you're working up against the edge. So if you get to the edge and you don't have a skirt, it's going to tip.
Correct.
Right. So this frame creates a 4-inch offset, or I should say a 2-inch offset all the way around that you can nail that skirt to. And then it's really easy, right? So then the skirt not only works to support that sled, it also works as a way to easily support your work surface, right? So you're not having to like get your material up there and then hold it in place and then mount it down, right? It's just, you just set it on the bottom skirt.
Okay.
So,
And another thing somebody told me was I should use a 12-foot top board instead of a 10-foot, so that I could, if just in case I want to upgrade to the longer chains, to do it. Is that viable? I mean, what?
yeah. So the only difference that you'd have to make, additional change you'd have to make if you moved to the longer chains, is you would ultimately move that 12-foot top beam up about 6 inches as well.
Okay.
Right? So that combination of further out and higher up is what gives you the extra margins at the edges.
Okay.
So yeah, and we're actually building, so I don't know if you could see when I walked over, but we've got the mini frame first and we've got the regular frame next, and I'm hoping to finish it today, building the XL frame in here so that we can just walk between versions and show everybody the layouts. But yeah,
Awesome.
the XL frame's great if you're planning to really utilize that full 4x8 foot sheet. Otherwise, if you're mainly just working on decor projects, you don't really need it. I mean, like people who are really using those edges are the ones I'd recommend for that.
Yeah, I've been doing everything by hand. I mainly just make flags. So
Nice.
the big thing was I'm a disabled vet, so my hand shakes and it goes numb. So when I'm dremeling the stars in, sometimes I can't even feel the Dremel touching the wood because I can't feel anything with my hands.
Yeah.
But
So did you get a V-bit?
I got whatever bit set you guys were selling. So.
Okay, if you got the 5-pack, then you got a V-bit in there.
Yes, I did.
And that's exactly what you need to do those pocket stars.
Okay, awesome. But yeah, I'm really excited, man. Thanks for creating something like this.
Yeah, for sure. Did you get your military discount when you ordered?
Yes, I did actually. And I really appreciate that too.
Yeah, thank you for your service.
Yeah, there was one of the channels I was watching. He had a discount code on his, and I thought, maybe I'll try that. And I was like, nope, nowhere near the military discount, dude. You guys are awesome.
Good. Yeah. Well, Chris Skiles, who co-founded it, he's a Iraq war veteran as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's definitely important to us for sure.
Cool.
What's up, Casey?
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Getting ready for it's this afternoon, right? 5 o'clock.
It's at 5 o'clock. Yeah. You got something you're gonna demo for the crew?
Well, I mean, I didn't have anything. I'm in testing and building thing mode right now, but I did design a new tool that allows people to accurately set their bit in their router in their Z axis. That way, if you have like 1-inch wood, I see a lot of questions on there. Will this cut 1.5-inch wood? Sure, it will. And I can show you how to adjust it to ensure your bit goes all the way through your cut piece. So anyway, I've been piddling around with those. I made a little kit and little set of these things, and I've been piddling around on mine. So it works, but I don't know, haven't had time to do videos or anything on it.
For sure. Well, I'd love to see that during the show and tell.
Yeah.
Cool.
Work life is coming back, right?
Yeah. 100%.
100%. Back at work now. So
Lauren, you got some crazy stuff going on that sheet over there.
So this is my shop. I was going to finally show you.
Yeah.
I was going to say I had to go back to 113 because I downloaded 115 and just a heads up, when you remove the machine zero, you have to drastically adjust your parameters. Because I got this bright idea. I was like, I have all these customers that want to spend money, but are unprepared to drop $100 or, $85 for something that's kind of large. What if I start making it out of insulation foam? And how does it cut? However, only foam I had on site was 1.5 inch insulation foam left in my garage.
Okay.
What I didn't realize is even though it has the ability to travel, it hits the soft limits because you in 115 they removed the zero option for the machine Z axis. You can zero out the work axis, but not the machine axis.
Oh.
And I know we had a discussion like, what's the big deal there? When you remove that, I had to go back in the parameters and greatly adjust it. But now to go 1.5 inches up,
You had to go back into the calibration settings to adjust the machine Z.
yep, the soft limits. Because what ends up when I tried to cut it and I raised, because you got to raise everything. At the end of the day, 1.5 inches is more than you can raise a bit. You can push the bit further down, but 1.5 inches is quite a bit. And at the same time, you got 1.5 inches, you have to have 1.5 inches exposed on the router as well.
Okay.
So I ended up, it works great, heads up. If you want to cut foam, I cut it at 3/4 inch passes without a problem.
Nice.
Super smooth. Cut it at 40 inches per minute. Didn't even slow down.
Nice.
And it was great. But just a heads up, and I can bring it out later, but that they need to bring back that machine Z axis zero.
So help me think through this then, Lauren. If we just made that set Z zero, if that wasn't a work zero, but that was a true machine zero, would that resolve the issue? Because that was
that's fine.
Casey's shaking his head. What's
No,
wrong?
because your machine zero is used in the original calibration, right? Whenever you're doing your offsets, that's what gets you down to your 1.1 millimeter or whatever your accuracy. Your work zero is just used based on your work zero is going to change with every project, but the machine zero is the core number it uses as the denominator in its original calculation. It needs to have that stored.
Right.
So when you in your calibration, it stored that number, but now what you're not able to do is go in there and reset that zero again. So I think you just need
the
to
Z axis. Is that an issue? Like for change, because again, constantly the thing I don't get about Z axis machine versus work is like it doesn't matter, right? To me, it is what it is.
That's because you and I shut our soft limits off. For anybody using the soft limits, it really matters.
Okay.
Yeah. So to be honest with you, I shut my soft limits off. I just make sure that I don't, I always run everything in millimeters, and I make sure I don't move it up 15 inches. I make sure everything's set in millimeters, but
right.
That's the key. If once you learn to run without those soft limits, then your Z-axis machine home no longer matters. But you got to shut those off.
Gotcha.
Some people are uncomfortable with that, right? They see that as a safety issue, but the reality is I don't think they're that accurate anyway. I tried, that, Patrick. I tried figuring out the calculation, how it did that. I sat for a week and a half,
right,
moving the thing up and down, adjusting it, redoing the calculation, trying to figure out how it works. I don't think I don't think your soft limits work on your Z axis.
Well, I need to talk to Chris about this.
Chris knows. Me and Chris have been going back and forth on it.
You have? Okay, great.
Yeah. So the Z-axis
not on
limit.
Not on what Lauren was saying.
It'll definitely stop.
Yeah. Now I haven't gone back and forth with him on what Lauren was saying, taking that away. Mm-hmm. So he does need to be told to put that back for those people that still want to run with soft limits. That is probably pretty critical.
Okay.
The real issue was because I did the test cut with 115, And I was able to raise that soft limits to 2 inches. So I basically was like, I just did the calculation with my caliper, like how high to get to the top. But the issue was when you go into the software and you look at it, I don't think I can, maybe I can pull this out and show, turn the camera around. Is on the Z axis here, it was showing like 23, 24, while this was 0. Now, it doesn't matter, not too much. The real challenge you run into is when you're trying to do calculation to figure out, okay, while I'm making my cut, is something wrong? I like to have a quick glance to see, okay, I'm reading right. Because, for example, what I ran into on my cut, and this is, you know, user error, right? I
Breaking up, Lauren.
developing a hard kind of ball on the bit at the top that was, and kind of it was jacking up the cut. Now I was able to quickly realize, like, okay, this is the problem. I paused it, broke the little piece off, turned the bit down, and it cut just fine for the rest of the cut.
Okay.
But at first I thought something was wrong with the actual, because I wasn't able to quick reference and say, okay, this is what is actually happening. And it took me a couple extra seconds to be like, oh, okay, this is what's going on. With that in mind, these bits that we have here that come, it's unfortunate because I've used these exact bits, but those stoppers, it won't let it go to an 1.5 inch cut.
You can
And
move
these
those.
are perfect bits for cutting foam.
You can remove those though.
Yeah, they just slide off.
Yeah, I was going to say that, like, I do have one. Where's it at? Somewhere that I removed, but for the regular customer, just a heads up, it probably wouldn't hurt just to have them just remove those white those white pieces.
Yeah, we added those because it's pretty standard fare for an 1/8 inch bit, but I think a lot of it just confuses people. Right?
Yeah.
This is where we need to get back to educating more, right? And why this revamp to the bits is important.
But no, it's just from my perspective, I like to be able to zero out, see across the board. I did do a lot more testing this week. I ran it up to 60 millimeters per second, or 60, that'd be a little fast, per minute, per minute.
60?
Yeah, I ran it up to 60 millimeters per minute just to see what it would do. So interestingly enough, it'll really cut smooth through any of the curves up and down.
Oh yeah.
But what I don't know if I have an example here. It
right
did
is
some
the
weird things, and it would only do it randomly. Let me see if I can turn this camera around. You can see where I'm repairing it, and we're about to give it to the cut. We got to do some minor repairs. So basically, it accidentally overshot one of the cuts. I didn't catch it. But the rest, as you can see, cut very smooth and very accurately. It just did some weird things. So I slowed it. So I tested it. And you know how we talked about it basically going down. It kind of goes down towards the middle and back up as it goes across the board at a higher speed, which I still haven't figured out why it does that. But with that in mind, it works correctly all the way through 45 inches per minute. So it works absolutely perfectly at 45 inches per minute. Cool. Above that, it starts to do funky things. I don't know why.
It's
just because you're working with gravity.
Mike said it.
Well,
you're working against gravity.
The thing is like, if you think about it, the gravity, like off and on a very smooth surface, it should work fine because there's no resistance whatsoever. Really what should happen is just the gears turn faster. But it's something about the ratio. I don't know if it's something about the speed of what's causing it, or if it doesn't. The motors have just a max speed. I'm not really sure. I don't really know.
No, you've got two pendulums working together, right? Mike's right. So when you're getting going laterally that quick, all that momentum, right? The acceleration that's baked into the up and down motion, that's by design, right? But it's understood that because when you're going up and down, all the momentum just stops right here, right?
But the
Right.
moment you take it left and right, it's going to keep going, carrying it left and right. And so you get those curves that will actually, because that one is pulled taut, that's chain is pulled taut, it's going to then swing up like and do kind of like that motion by the time you get it in before it drops back down. So that's where you got that curvature up, whoop, and then it came back down.
You
So I
can't
thought
fight
that.
physics, man.
The reason why, that's where I'm saying like I need the education on the physics, because I thought I was going to see that. So basically, everything's in there. It actually, there is no swing at all. The actual chains remain tight. It just does this weird thing where it goes low and then corrects itself and comes back up. So it's not like it's actually overshooting left and right. It goes down and then realizes it's low, stops and comes back up. So it's not like it's actually swaying. There's no stretch or any. That's where I'm kind of confused. Is I expected to see some flex, like left and right, or to overshoot that way, but it didn't. And then some of the cuts, like that one cut, it was really random. Like everything else cut smooth. It just did it on that random cut, and I wasn't sure why. It could have been garbage in, garbage out. Like I put it in something, I didn't realize that I did it. Because like I overcompensated. So normally your carryover speed or your carryover, your safety height, right? That's normally I keep it at 1/4 inch, or no, I'm sorry, 1/8 inch. What I realized is to allow time for that correction, I raised it to 1/4 inch, and it gave it time to get to that point and come up. It gave it that extra split second it needed as the Z-axis came down to come to the correct spot.
Interesting.
But like I said, it's weird how it kind of constantly does that. And I'm going to do more testing on like scrap cuts and stuff. But at 45 inches per minute, I'll show you this one. This was entirely not slowed down, 1/8 inch bit, and very, very little cleanup. I mean, it's yeah, very little cleanup.
So cool.
And
That's
you would
pretty.
think like this thin, it's going to have problems. It's just over 1/4 inch thick.
That's beautiful.
And that's at 45 at speed with no issues.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So number one, remember that when you start going above 40 is kind of the max limit for the unit, right? And that is
Right.
because it is basically hanging on 2 pivot points, and it can swing either way. Not on top of that, but you also have the third axis where the sled can rotate. So if you're not perfectly centered, whenever you're
noticed, yeah.
moving sideways, you may not see the swing like this, but the sled may get to that point and then rotate like this before it goes down. So number one, it needs to be perfectly centered. Number two, your G code actually asks the sled to slow down a little bit just as you get to these corners. All G code does that. It reduces speed because of momentum and force.
Right.
I would check yours. If you're running at over 45 and then you have the additional weight on there, you might see a little bit of swinging. You might see a little bit of momentum. And the funny thing is you won't see it with your eye, but you'll see it with a bit. I guarantee
see it
you won't,
at the
you
end of the
won't see
product.
that thing move a 1/16 of an inch. You won't see it jump 2 millimeters, whatever your measurement is, but the bit will show it afterwards. This is all due to your speed, brother. You're pushing the
I'm sure it
maximum
is.
limits on your speed.
No. I know that's the whole purpose, right? I completely understand like what I'm doing. What I'm trying to figure out is at what point is it potentially a software issue, and is it just purely the speed? That's my curiosity, right? Because I have noticed like this one or the one I cut earlier, when I cut that one at the highest speed, it did slow down. It would come into those corners and it would really slow down. And then as soon as it would shoot off after it hit that corner, right, it would take off.
Yep.
Now I'm running expensive bits so we could kind of take that extra load. And I was expecting that because they're meant to be for like a tabletop CNC. And that's where I was like, okay, so it is slowing down the way it's supposed to. The only thing I'm confused about is when I ran it without cutting anything, just running it back and forth across the board, is watching it dip down and then come back up, dip down and come back up. Because I did like overrun, I don't remember how fast I ran it. I just to see, and you will see at a certain point like that stretch, that bit overshooting. But it's just weird to actually, as it moves, you can clearly see, it looks like it's uncalibrated, right? Because that's what I was like, oh, I jacked up my calibration watching it go down the board and not straight across, and then come back up. It recognized they'll come back up. And that's the only confusion I have, is why it's doing that. That's one only reason why I think it's something in the software as well.
Well,
Is that when I
maybe
adjust that
in-
speed, it changes something in the algorithm.
maybe in free operation mode when you're not actually running G code, because the G code is what sets the stepper parameters in the motors. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's just
Be
moving
fair to-
across the board, you know.
Yeah, because when it cuts it moves very straight at speed when the G code is actually running.
Yeah. It's a
It'll be-
CNC.
Yeah.
It
You gotta
reads-
I mean, that's all. It's hard.
You gotta remember, Lauren, slow
Yeah.
and steady always wins the race.
That's right, Mike.
I understand, Mike, but sometimes you have that crotch rocket, you have that motorcycle, you just want to see what it'll do. You just got to see.
Man, that's the first time anyone's ever described this tool as a speed machine.
I hope you got that recorded.
Right?
You got that recorded,
Y'all
Patrick?
heard it here.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I understand it's limited. But I had one of the ladies that buys our product. She was like, I almost bought a Maslow, but I know they can't do the detail. And I was like, I just kind of looked at her. I was like, you're absolutely wrong. As they're putting together their V carve that cuts 12 inches by 12 inches.
Yeah.
I was like, you do you, like you dropped $2,000 on this, but I'm just telling you, like, and I didn't have stuff with you, but I was like, you missed out, because it will absolutely do the detail. But it is
Dustin, what were you
it
gonna
is.
say there?
I was just going to say, I guess, and I'm no expert, I'm just wondering, it sounds like maybe the gear for the motor that's behind is moving faster, releasing the chain, and the one that's in front isn't moving fast enough to pick up the chain, and that's why it's dropping down. I guess when you're moving across, it's dropping down a little bit, and as you get to the end and it slows down, that front gear tightens up that chain and it pulls it back up.
No, I think you're absolutely right, Dustin. I just don't know why it's doing that. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
Is
I'm
there a
wondering
reason
to what
why
extent.
the gear-
I'm curious to what extent friction is playing a role in this too. I'd be really interested in that. I actually was running a project the other day where I had, actually it was this project where I stained yesterday and it was still tacky. And then I turned on the hose at the same time, and the sled literally just stopped. Like the chains were going slack, right? And the thing just stopped there. I had to flick off the hose or the vacuum to get it to fall back into place. So I don't know. It depends. Might also depend on the sled or friction that's going on, playing a role as well. Just guessing.
I mean, it could be. My method of stopping that is I took some Johnson's wax, which I did this right off the bat, and I coated that back, wiped it down, coated it again, wiped it down.
Yeah. Nice.
And the foam, don't get me wrong, when I was cutting the foam, you could definitely tell friction was still there.
Yeah.
But the plywood, almost nothing. And at first I thought maybe it'd be something like vacuum system, but I'm not running a vacuum or anything right now. I'm just running dust movers that push it all out of my garage. So there shouldn't be any vacuum. Like I said, I think when they designed the code, they knew like, hey, 40, the safe limit, right? When you design any software, you develop safe limits well short of, it's like putting the red line on an engine, right? You develop well short of where that engine's going to come apart at.
That's a good way to describe it. It's like you can go beyond that. You just don't know what you're going to get when it.
Right. It's the same reason why we turn off soft limits, because we know we can, and we know, when you want to, you can do it.
So Lauren's the tuner of the group here. We know that now. He's
that's
put a
not
supercharger
unfair.
blower on top.
I couldn't do, but yeah, I just think there's something in the code that is limiting it, and I'd be curious what that'd be, and if we're allowed to change it. But
You should talk to Zane Clace in the owners group. He's going to be able to give you a lot of info on the trig behind it.
I will say this, I I think it would be awesome if there was a location on the page to access older models of Makerverse.
Legacy
Uh,
editions. Okay.
Only because I didn't really want to go back to 113. I wanted to go back to 114. And I have 114, but even the 114 I have was version 5, I think it was, or version 300 and so. Me and Casey were online checking it out, and it also had the Z-axis removed. But those major updates could easily be added with a little note. This is what changed.
Yeah. So
Hey, Patrick,
go.
by any chance, all that's in GitHub, aren't those all those releases?
They are. I'm
All of
dropping
them.
it in the chat right now. So
I was
Lauren,
gonna say,
check out this link. It's got all the legacy releases.
Oh, sweet. Okay, hang on a second. I'm gonna go back.
We own makerverse.com. So if you ever need an old version, you can just go to makerverse.com.
Oh, okay.
Yep. We're going to use that a lot more in the future, but for now we're just storing it in repository.
I mean, it absolutely makes sense. It does absolutely make sense.
Yeah, but I like that info on the Z. So what I will say, guys, is we do have the event later today. Are there any other topics we want to go through here? I was going to say, I'm going to, if anybody has any interest, I'm going to drop in the owners group later today, a MakerMade Owners Fantasy Football League. And just if anybody wants to join, I'm going to put it in there just for fun. I enjoy fantasy football, and my other leagues didn't come together this year, so I'm just going to put it out there. But feel free to join that. But any other topics before we go today?
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah, Dustin, go for it.
One more thing about the Makerverse is that, and I don't know if it's in older versions and that you've removed it in 1.15, but when I close out of a project or load another project, I'm losing my workspace.
Yes.
So like I want to set up one cut with one bit or something like that, and do that cut, and then I want to change to a different bit with a different cut, but keep that same start point. I'm losing that when I switch projects.
So that is in. I don't know if no, it's not. So it's not in the current. So we're trying to figure out what the various commands are that are all clearing that. So this is engineering overstep as far as I can tell, where a software engineer said in multiple instances, well, if somebody says reset or says stop or any of these commands, I'm going to add clear work offset as part of that command. That is not the case. That is absolutely overstep on their part. So I'm trying to find every location where that's the case and extract that out right now. So same page, Dustin, but glad to hear you're
okay
on board.
Yeah. So anybody else working on Makerverse right now, if you want to change projects, but you want to keep your start point, keep some paper and write it down. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
So
I'm screenshotting my location, and then I always will either do a laser pulse or a bit press. I'll zero out my bit till it's right on top, and then I'll turn on my router and I'll just palm that just a hair in there just to make sure I'm offset exactly the right distance every time.
So real quick, so when you go, so you close out, you hit the trash can, right? You said it's like your work zero chain goes away.
Yes.
Interesting. I'm not sure if mine does that.
Take a look.
Because I guess I've always I do it, especially in Carbide Create, because Easel will send you back to the original home. Carbide Create will not.
We're talking.
So I always, as soon as I'm done, before I hit the trash can, I can go back to my work zero. And I wonder if I just didn't ever notice it. I always hit return to work zero. Or hit
yeah, because if that's the case, then you're able to just say set work home again, right? Which is great.
Right.
Like that works.
Maybe that's just a habit. That's just my habit, and maybe I just never noticed it. That's a good point. I'll have to test that today, Dustin. I got several cuts to do today.
Yeah, definitely take a look, because I'm running into the same thing, and especially when I'm doing combo laser and milling projects, it's such a pain. Because especially with those, they're more fine detail typically. So you really want to make sure it's really accurate. And then it's hard to line up like a laser to, we got to where we lined up the laser beam to the bit exactly, but it's still difficult when you're swapping out units like that. It's still weird. So yeah.
And that was another thing I was going to bring up. Has there been any conversation about improving the clamp for the drill or for the router. The reason why I'm asking that is where it is right now on the Z-axis is kind of in the middle of that plate, which means that you lose a lot of your Z-axis travel when you want to keep your router up high enough so that it's choked, so you don't have any extra bit deflection than necessary.
That's a good point.
You have a lot of capable Z-axis travel, which would allow you to do a lot more. I discovered this past weekend. I was cutting out some stuff. I had 1 inch material on, and I really only need a 1/2 inch, but I was just like, I'll just cut with this because I'm just testing. And I was using a 16th inch bit, and I bottomed out my Z-axis because the 16th inch bit was so much shorter than all the other bits.
Wow. Okay.
It just doesn't. It has enough to cut through what I'm working on. Yeah, go ahead.
See, personally, all I would do is that blue plate, and I know I'm using the later model. Don't judge me too much, but I would make this plate, just change that out to one that can extend up or below, or has connector points above and below.
You just need to tap some extra mounts.
Yeah, because if like, I mean, all it is screwed in the middle, right? I don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
But it's actually just screwed in. But if we could move that component, the clamp, up above it or below it.
Yeah, I think if we just extended the plate too, because like it bottoms out into those mounts that attach to the actual sled, right? So what we've been talking about with the new spindle we're creating is exactly that, is lowering it down a hair, but utilizing that extra length to just make a taller clamp to again address deflection as much as possible. But I do like the idea of just shifting those clamp mount points below or to the bottom of the bracket and maybe extending the bracket slightly. That's an interesting idea.
Dustin, what I did, because when I was doing the foam, I did actually raise I raised my whole Z-axis to the very top, and then I adjusted the router. And when that router plunged, because it's 1.5 inches, when it plunged, the head of my router was within 1/4 of an inch of the actual foam. It was well into there. So you can push a router a lot deeper into that clamp. You just got to be careful because, as we've talked before, you're going to have a lot more deflection. So you gotta really find that sweet spot.
Yeah, and I was going to
go ahead. I'm
with
sorry.
Foam, you don't have with foam, you don't have that force against the bit as you're cutting because it's just so light. But I'm using solid wood here, and if I was to do that, I've already tried that before. Right at the very beginning, I jumped straight into solid wood, which you shouldn't do. You should definitely learn on MDF or something else. And I had a lot of bit deflection, and that's what I've learned the hard way. Broke a bit doing that. So that's why I'm asking if there's any discussion about improving that clamp, or maybe offering a new plate where there's some adjustable holes in there that we can design and build our own.
Yeah, well, I was just kind of designing it in my head. So maybe Lauren, can you tell us if we were to just looking at the plate you've got there, you got one in front of you right now. If you were to extend that plate downward, would it bump into those bottom mounting brackets that mount to the sled or not? Because what I'm thinking is we could just create a really easy.
You would need to create a spacer right here, one at least plate thickness, because right now as I look across, it's directly flush. Like this plate is directly flush. Let me see if I can turn my camera. With that bottom bracket.
Yeah, I'm looking at mine right now. Same problem. I think there's caps on the end of that extrusion piece.
That's enough that it'll bump.
But what we could do, what we can do is create a very simple file where we utilize like a 1/2 inch piece of ply or something. When the original versions of these types of like robust Z-axes were a combination of PLA printed and then like a wood plate right there. So if we created a file for milling out with an 1/8 inch bit, we could create all those pilot holes for where those mount points need to be, and we could just move the clamp mount lower. And then if instead of making the plate a perfect rectangle, if they indented where those mount points are there, then you could drive it all the way down till that plate essentially is flush to the sled bottom. And that's your bottom point.
I mean, even then, like a shorter version, if you had it, was just to send a plate that goes on top of this plate.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, because it's dead flush right now. So if you had a plate that goes on top,
That's a
it would
good
just
idea.
slip. You have to remove all these screws, right? All these little tiny screws, but it would just sit right on top of it. And then you could add the mount points up here and the mount points at the bottom.
Depending on how you designed it, you wouldn't even need to remove those screws. You could just like cut around them, right?
100%. Yeah.
Pocket holes for them, right? And then you
And
can
it just mounts through it.
the only challenge there is making sure that the Z gantry has enough room on those rails to slide back sufficiently. But then, yeah, that's a really cool idea. That would be, what would you call that?
would
You
say
call
that's
that like a
no-brainer.
high, or
It would be a low Z mod.
a low Z. There we go. Yeah.
We
We can't call it a
no
low
one's gonna
rider because
understand
that
when you
already
put that on the website.
I like it though.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's going to understand that when you say it on the website, but it sounds, I get it. It's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a really cool idea. Well, if anybody wants to design it, we'd probably feature it on the marketplace or something. That would be a really cool little, $1, $2 download or something. Just an idea. Cool, guys. All right. Well, hey, I'm going to bounce so that I can get prepped for this meeting. Unless, again, any other last questions or topics? Okay, cool. Again, Tom, super excited for you to join. Can't wait to see what you make. Hope you can make it to the show and tell at 5 o'clock or 5 Central, 6 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah. I don't think I'll be showing anything, but yeah,
Totally fine.
just to watch.
Great. Sounds great. Looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, everybody. See y'all in a little while. Bye.
See ya.
I know this is a stupid question, but is there a show and tell at 5?
What was that?
Did they say there was like a show and tell or another meeting at 5 today?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh,
they're doing
yeah, 5 p.m.
a voluntary show and tell.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Now I'd like to just sit in on it just to watch.
Yeah. No, you should show. You've got some cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's nothing really that crazy. It really isn't. It's just simple stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, but I believe we're gonna show like our rigs and stuff. So I plan to put my laptop in the garage and get it all set up so you can see my cutting area and everything. So
Oh, so just to show you, y'all know obviously Drew Plassett, right? So I don't know where he's at today. This is
Yeah.
my redneck version of his setup. It's a Harbor Freight with wheels put on bottom.
oh, cool.
Hey, that
I
works.
saw his cart. I couldn't find any carts out here on the East Coast that was that good. So I
Yeah.
just took a Harbor Freight $10 shelf that I just took off the top 2 shelves, put it on wheels, and it works great. It's a very
That's
cheap
great.
version if you needed something.
Yeah, that looks great.
I wouldn't say it looks
Yeah,
great.
I'm currently set up on
But
a
it
table
works.
saw or a saw table.
Yeah.
Oh,
I cut something out of the marketplace out of a full sheet of 1/2-inch plywood. There was like a standing desk, but I don't have wheels on mine, so I have to pick it up every time I want to move it around. And the design didn't cut great. I figured out there's limits on the corners and stuff. It changes angles and stuff. So, anyways, I plan to show this when I get at 5 o'clock. So Lauren, check out the webpage, makermade.com. There's some on the forum or something. I think there was a posting. It's supposed to be 6 p.m. Eastern. I think it's 5 p.m. Central for me. So I'm planning
Okay.
on getting off of work early to show off some stuff. And yeah.
yeah. And I'm glad y'all said something because I would not have planned on that. I was going to tell you, Matt, we were talking about router.
Yeah.
I did this by hand, used the machine to do it. So we probably all have some sort of table saw. So hopefully y'all have a better one than I do, but
Yeah.
I just got a little work site saw,
Yeah.
and most of them have an ability to slide out, right?
Okay.
So if you ever want to do it, this is my method because I have another router table over on the side of the shop, but it's just a pain to move it back and forth. But I almost always have my table saw.
That's a great idea.
It just slips right in.
Yep.
I'm gonna say, let me slide this closed. Gotta set the phone down, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Can't do it one-handed.
Yeah, and so then I just got my little rigid router. And it's a real quick, easy, a little easier with two hands, but
Yep. Oh, that's a great idea. I've never seen that before. And that's how you
Just
clean
like
up
that.
your stuff? You put that ball bearing bit in there and that's how you clean up all your cuts?
yep. And then I have me another battery operated router that I use for if I'm gonna round them over. Like I
Okay.
did some surfboards,
Yeah,
decorative, not real surf, but decorative surfboards. Oh, she
Yeah.
did not sand those down. But yes, basically I just clean them up and then round over the edge.
that's great. That's great.
But
You
if you got a table saw,
Someone
that,
should be showing
that
it from
method
that.
is my new router table, full time almost. It's just dropping it in and out.
Yeah.
But this ability to do this, just measure the head of your router
Yeah,
and cut it with the machine. I did it by hand, which, but and then make sure you have your dog bones so you can actually pick it up out of there because that's the
Yeah.
only challenge.
yeah. That's great. That's a great idea. I've never seen that. That's amazing. I think it looks good.
So that's my method. The other thing, if you're getting into using your router for cleanup, go to Home Depot and buy at least the 1/4 inch Lexan and use your base as a template, the original base of your router, and build
Yep.
you an extended one. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll show you this.
I've seen some of
Because I can
those.
tell you right now, like my little portable, my little one right here, like this tiny little base
Yeah,
doesn't do anything. It's just too small.
sure,
I'm about to rebuild this one myself,
sure.
but yeah, I know we got in that whole discussion last week about it. And I wanted to kind of show you because it's just my method of going about it.
Yeah, you
But-
know what? My laptop is really getting old and the battery's loose. And when I set down the battery yesterday, it just hard shut off. Like hard shut off. I was
dang.
like, there's no power. It just went off and I couldn't get connected again. So I apologize for cutting out last week, but yeah, you know, there's some people that try to do this stuff by hand and they sell clear Lexan routing bases. And then basically you just put a drawer knob on either side of
Yeah.
it. So they've got these oval ones and then they have a little drawer, like drawer knobs, so you can hang on to it and really do some fine, you know, routing and stuff. I've seen that, but you know, obviously I want to make something like that. I don't want to buy it. So
Well, so I actually had one at one point where, because I did it kind of wrong, and the router actually wouldn't hold the base, but you can actually put little holes all the way around your base,
yep.
and use it for building, you know, or dropping in scrap wood for
Yeah.
straight edges, and it works. I really just like a little bit more surface area to my base. And I mean,
Sure.
you can see here, this one is completely homemade. Like that's just rounded over 1/4 inch,
Sure.
but it takes very little work really.
Yeah, that's a good
As long as you
idea.
got a flush.
I really like how you put that in
But-
your table because then you don't have to have a separate router, you know, router bench thing. That's a great idea.
Right. Well, that was my thing. I was running out of space and I was like, I really can't just keep this giant router hanging around, taking up all this space. What if I combine it with my table saw?
Yeah.
But like I said, it's not perfect, but it does its job. The only thing I'd improve on if you do have one like this,
Yeah.
is the ones I actually saw online. You can see there's a little recess there. So they actually just made it big enough to where it sits right here in the middle, and then you can actually use your table saw fence as a router fence.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a great idea too. I'll look at that, but I don't think my saw has a wide opening in the middle there when I extend my thing out. So I'll have to take a look at that, but that's a great idea. And you're right. Have your table saw fence on there too would be great too. So
Yeah.
one thing I bought, Lauren, was-
It worked for me.
sure.
But
One thing I bought
You
was I bought that Harbor Freight has a router, little 1.25 horsepower router, and it works great.
Yeah.
I used that for quite a while, but then I decided to go graduate and get a bigger one. So I've got that extra, Harbor Freight one, but I'm telling you, that's a pretty good little router that never had any problems for me on my M2 at all. And, if you're looking for a little trim router, it's not battery operated like you're talking about, but it's just a little trim router, and and you get it on sale for $60, 65, 69, something like that. So that was a pretty good deal and a pretty good little router for doing, extra trim pieces and stuff. So I decided to take that one out of the M2 and put in a bigger one, and I'll show it at 5 o'clock, but I like the digital readout on mine. It shows you how fast the bit's supposed to be going.
Right.
And I'm trying to get like the Amana Tool spec, try to get the bit going to what Amana Tool has for the chip load and all that stuff. So, anyways, that's the router that I've got in there now, but it's a skill router, and it wasn't that expensive either. That one was $129, and it fits in the 91 millimeter clamp. So, but anyways, yeah, that's it. I haven't had any router post-processing, basically, that you taught me how to do. You taught me about doing that. I've been just sanding and trying to get sandpaper in the little crevices to get all that stuff cleaned up. But that's a better idea, is to use a router.
So there's a couple other things. Now, I will say this, I completely agree with you. People discount like Harbor Freight, but if you're just getting into it, go there. I mean, it's not like they're not going to be high grade professionals. So if you're trying to do real fine woodworking, you're going to run into a problem. But for the most part, it'll get you a long ways.
Yeah.
Speaking of cleanup though, man, have you picked up one of these Diablo blocks from Home Depot?
No, I haven't. What is that?
So it's just a Diablo. So let me take the thing off. It just takes your round belt. Hang on. Here, I'm trying to do things with two hands again.
Your round sanding pads, right?
Yeah. So I just take them off my router or my sander once they get a little bit worn out.
Yep.
Man, so they're kind of expensive at like $12 or $13 a piece for just a simple sanding block. But the advantage is one side, this side right here is hard. You can see it's a 2 composite.
Okay.
And then one side is soft.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Great for cleaning up edges.
Oh,
because when you need that, if you're doing a hard edge, you use the hard side, but if you're doing a rounded or soft edge, works great.
That's awesome. See, this is the kind of stuff I join these meetups for, because I don't have these kind of, I'm not doing it as a business like you are. Did you say you were getting $100 a pop for some of those pieces?
Yeah, so we're selling, let's see here. So we'll end up selling, we have 3 names here. Let me see if I can turn it around.
Yeah.
And I think we're selling these for about 100, but it's only, we sell it by the square inch total. So that's a wedding name. So there's 3 of them there, 100. Our circles we sell for 60 to 75, depending on how much decorations they add to them. I think we're selling this for like $30 or so, but at the end of the day, that took me 8 minutes to cut out and about another 2 minutes to clean up. So $35, and we're going to throw some paint on it and it'll sell. The lady's already got it purchased. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it's not like rich right now, but we're also only selling on Facebook and by reference. So we're planning to go to like Etsy and go like mass production, but I'm kind of nervous about getting like 1,000-piece sale, and I really don't know how I'm gonna handle that.
Yeah, the volume. Yeah. Well, I think it's great. What do you do with all your your cutoffs and your waste material?
You'll see.
Because it occurs to me those circle ones that you're cutting out, you have a lot of wood left over, but it's not going to be usable because it's in a circle or it's got an interior cut to it.
So sometimes I'll cut it in my backyard. Now my wife does a lot of like 6-footers. You'll see here, like they're basically just laid up here, a bunch of 6-foot plywood pieces to make, they like the welcome signs in front of the houses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where I make money is it's an 8-foot section. So you can see here the costs, and I use these a lot. Now the 6-footer paid for the plywood and more. So I'm basically making free money here off of that. And you can see I cut the surfboards out of it. So I just use it until I get down to tiny pieces, and then I just throw it in a bucket. And then when there's enough tiny pieces, me and my daughter go in the backyard and I let her build a fire with it.
Oh, okay. So you're
I
burning
keep
them.
mine.
Okay.
Yeah, I keep mine as scrap for putting
Yeah.
back on the board. So, you know,
Okay.
like something
Yes.
like this is not really big enough to cut anymore, at
Yep.
least not on the CNC really, but
Yeah.
I can at least, you know, take the screws and just put it right up in the board and
Yep.
use it immediately. So I
I've-
just keep the stuff kind of off to the side till it's useful.
So
Yeah.
100% agree with you, Dustin. You can see here, I've got a layer of the different thicknesses of wood. I use these, just tape them on there. I know we kind of discussed that before, using just painter's tape.
Okay.
Create that skirt when I need a skirt.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I've used some cutoffs, like Dustin said. I've got a couple cutoffs, and I already had screw holes in them, so I just hide them underneath my rack. And then if I need to support some wood or whatever, I've got 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch, pieces underneath there. But I'm piling up all these odd cutoff shapes, and I want to use them because I don't want to throw stuff away or waste money. But some of them, like Dustin was saying, they're a little too small to cut, or I'd have to come up with a smaller design to put on them. So
And some of them you're going to find that. We've
Yeah.
got, so I'll show you. I'm airing my dirty laundry here, but like my wife will sometimes do trays out of them. We'll do small boxes, and you can see we have the larger cutoffs here.
yeah,
But I mean, at some point you got to cut your loss. My concern is always when we run the numbers, did we pay for the sheet? Do we make money over the top? And then I'm okay with, sometimes you just got to let it go.
sure.
There was something else I was just looking at, but yeah, I mean, win or lose, I mean, you can even see here, she hadn't even finished this sign. We put it together with scrap pieces and then she let it sit. But yeah, you can see, like, you can just use scrap pieces and quickly throw together things, little
Yeah.
frames, kind of just, it is what it is.
Yeah,
But I mean, I've got a lot of scrap. I ain't gonna lie. It's not exactly perfect.
yeah.
I don't know if you guys can see behind me. I've kind
Yeah.
of got it set up right now on my M2.
Yep.
This is what I'm working on right now, is trying to gang up a job so it goes all the way across the board as much as possible
Yep.
to minimize that scrap. So if I've got little teeny tiny pieces like what Lauren was showing, just throw it in the bucket, and then
Yep.
it either goes off into a wood chipper at the local forestry place, or it might just I don't want to put it in the trash if I don't have to.
Yep.
But yeah, that's one of the options.
No, that's
Do y'all
great.
have one of these drywall squares, T-squares?
Yeah, I've got that exact one, Lauren.
No, but it looks nice.
I've got that
Brother.
exact one.
Dustin, get you one, because when you're doing those tiny pieces and you're trying to mock it up, because I'm assuming you're using dead center of your project is where you set your zero.
Yep.
It's very good for establishing where it goes. And I'll just make a quick little plus mark on it. And it's very good for lining up your projects.
Yeah.
That way you ain't got to build them all out. One, you can cut them one at a time, but even then you get very close. And I mean, you can see, I'm not perfect at it, but you can see they're really close together.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can see my screen. I've got these vertical lines
Yeah.
every 2 inches. So I also have them for the horizontal, so I can just line up my boards right on those.
Okay.
And I just screw them in. I just go. That way I know exactly where I'm at on my
So you're basically
baseboard
just
every single
sliding,
time.
you're sliding the workpiece to your actual router instead of moving the router to the cut piece.
Well, I'll move my router to wherever I need it to be. I can move it off to the side over here or something like that.
Yeah.
But I have an idea of where I am starting to begin with. So yeah, I'll say, hey, I want to cut on this board in the middle, and I don't. You can't see. I want to cut on this board in the middle, not the one above it, and I know
Right.
it. And then I'm able to get accuracy, within a 1/4 inch or less.
Oh, that's very close.
Like this, I was able to cut all the way to the very edge of the board.
Yeah.
And get that nice clean cut right there.
Yeah.
And as you can see, it's just like it's getting that accurate every single time.
Yeah. Now, when people say these things aren't accurate, I'm like, it's because you haven't taken the time to love your machine a little bit.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, just take a few
So-
minutes, figure it out.
Also, keep a little of these 4-inch clamps out. Because if you're like me and you forget you have a piece of MDF on the back of your machine and it gets wet, I had to clamp it into place because it was so bowed just to keep it flat.
Oh,
If mine
Good
gets
Lord.
wet, I've got a problem because it's under a roof.
Well,
I
mine
really-
is too, but it doesn't stop it from little moisture coming in on sometimes.
Yeah, I really like that you're pushing the limits of the machine, and you're trying to find out the upper limits, and cutting in foam is a great idea. That was a great call. So
I mean, I need to go get it in a minute. I was surprised if you're testing. I'm telling you, get that insulation foam. You can
Yeah.
get a full 4x8 sheet for $12 at Home Depot.
that's awesome.
And like if you're doing a test cut and your test part, I mean that's the thing, cut or of a 3D printer. You know what I'm saying? If you're mocking something up,
Yep.
it works. The other thing I was going to tell you, Matt, if you haven't picked up this set here, Home Depot, it's a good purchase.
What is that? It's a
It's just a
Husky.
precision needle file set.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But it actually comes with a little handle with a little, what do you call it? Collet grip. And it comes with
Okay.
all these different shapes you can see here.
Well, I got a needle file. Yeah, I got a needle file set at Lowe's, but it's not that Husky one. So
I mean, if you have one, that's all I'm saying. If you
Yeah.
need, like, they clean up really well. The only
Yeah.
other thing I do besides that is I make me some dowels and I just wrap them in sandpaper
sure.
for some of the rounder corners or smaller. I'll use the inside of the base of these, and then I'll use where are they at? Take some like tongue depressors or popsicle sticks, whatever you want to call them, and
Yep.
put sandpaper on the outside
Oh, that's a great one too. Yeah. Cool.
for the finer work.
Ladies
All right,
nail
guys.
files are also, you know, they're cheap and fast if you wanted to do that.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Somebody's
Guys,
been watching Adam Savage.
I gotta run, but I'll see you back at 5 or 6 Eastern. So
Yeah.
you guys should save some of these for that too. So we'll see you then. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I should probably take
It's good
off
talking, Matt.
too. So
Yeah, it was nice to talk to you guys.
It's good
Thanks
talking,
again
everybody.
thanks for showing me all the stuff. I appreciate it. All right.
Hey, Dustin, I know you got to go.
Yeah, we're all learning together,
If you want
right?
to set up a time that you want to work on this Carbide Create, I'd love to, because I'm sure there's things that you're doing that I'm like, I have not tried yet. Yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to pick your brain. You're clearly getting some great accuracy out of it.
well, I mean, I'm just honestly, I think it's more the calibration. I took 3
Yeah.
days to build my frame, even though it's a simple frame. And then
No, I know, but
setting
it works.
everything up, getting the measurements. I mean, really, I don't know that I'm doing anything special outside of all the calibration that had to be done to begin with.
No, I mean, I always say it. It's garbage in, garbage out. You take the time to put good
But-
data,
Yeah,
the machine will work for you. But at the end of the day,
Yep.
you're cutting some components because a lot of my stuff, as you see, it's not very that small. And like my small stuff is just tests. Most people don't ask me to cut them super small things. They ask for larger components. It's what's popular for me right now. So, but I really enjoy like actually testing the accuracy and seeing how close I can get it. So, it's just that step-by-step process. I was trying, I know you were on the same comment thread. Have you tried that easel cam that they were messing with?
the easel cam.
Yeah, it was on the comment thread to try. It's ESTLCAM. It was one of the recommended free softwares.
Oh no, yeah, I saw that, but I haven't tried it yet. Yeah.
So
No, I haven't done that one.
I like
There's another
pictures,
one
but if you
out
get
there
a
that they
chance to
listed.
try it.
Okay. Yeah.
I
I'm
didn't
not
like
tied
it
to
personally.
Carbide
I feel like
yet.
Carbide Create's way
Okay.
better, but I would like to see what you thought.
Is
Yeah.
that easel cam?
I don't know.
Is it more data driven than it is graphical, or does it have a user in?
So my challenge was
Carbide.
is that like you have more freedom in Carbide Create and in easel, like the actual original easel, right? So like You have to try it. It really doesn't, it's just not as user friendly. The advantage that it does have is your bit setup. So it's establishing multiple bits. But as far as like, it's really meant for the user that doesn't design any of their stuff outside of the program. So they need a one-stop shop.
Okay.
So imagine if you're going into easel with no SVGs. You're creating your SVG in easel. Like me and you both design our stuff outside the product, right? And input it in. And I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest. Like that's, I can go down to the micro detail and see every little point. They're designing it entirely in a one-stop shop. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not my cup of tea. But I was curious from your standpoint if you see any advantages to using that, just because if Carbide Create one day decides they're not going to be free anymore or things like that, you know, it never hurts to build redundancy and additional options.
Right. Well, I mean, Carbide has that pay version, and I figure if I actually do get, when I finally decide to pick a software for generating cheat code, it'll be one that I'll end up paying for just to make sure I've got all the features and be able to do everything I want without any limitations. Especially if I'm going to be doing this as a business. Once I get going on that, it'll just be part of my cost of doing business is what I'm expecting. So I'm not really worried about the overall cost. I'd prefer it not to be too much, but it just.
Yeah. Have you tried Tricks? The V-carve that comes with
whatever I
X-carve machines?
A V-carve?
Have you tried Metrics? It's a V-carve. It's called V. It comes with the X-carve machines. So it's very impressive. However, it is not cheap. If you buy the machine, you only get the pro version for a year to 3 years. If you buy a machine, it's not like they even give it to you.
Yeah, that's not great.
It's impressive software and it's very easy to use. I jumped in and in minutes they'll let you download the trial version, and I got so excited because they had full functionality. But then as soon as you try to export G code, it's like, oh, you got to pay for that. And I mean, I was like running through projects. I was like, oh, I'm done. Like I was doing some complex stuff. Hit export. And I was like, I just wasted an hour and full of excitement to build these cool projects just to be told, pound sand, you're not getting these. It'll let you cut, like they have a bunch of like generic like designs, test designs. It'll let you cut them, but it won't let you actually do the stuff you want to do or test it in full function unless you buy it. But it is very impressive software. It does very, yeah. I like to compare. It's like easel on cocaine. Like it's very smooth. But like I said, I'm not ready to drop. I think it's like $100 and something a month. It can get kind of expensive.
Ooh. Yeah.
I got to double check that price. Don't quote me on that. But it would, to get the one I wanted, it wasn't cheap, and I was like, I don't know if I can settle on that.
Yeah, I can understand that. So, all right. Well, I got to jump, but I hope to see you.
You seem like you're. Yeah, I'll try to jump in at 5. I can't guarantee. I'm gonna try to jump in at 5, but not. Just love try to work with you. Project or something. Show me your.
Yeah, hang on one second. I think it's my internet's dropping. Can you say that again?
Yeah, I just want to work with you, man. If you get a chance, I don't know what you got going on. I know you're probably busy in life too. If you get a chance, I just love to. I only have my way of doing things. I'd like to learn some other methods and kind of go that way. And we seem to have similar thought processes. So just to kind of get that feedback, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if you are available in a weeknight or a weekend. Which would be better for you?
Either way works.
Okay.
I'm usually home around 6 o'clock on a work. I mean, obviously I'm off on baby leave right now, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let me.
I'm pretty flexible.
Okay. This weekend's kind of busy for me. I got kind of a couple things going on.
Okay.
But maybe next week I'll shoot you an email on Facebook. How about that?
That's perfect, man. That's perfect.
Okay. All right.
Awesome.
Well, you have
Thanks, brother.
yeah, you have a
Take
good day.
care. All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Leave.